Welcome back to Timeless Messages. This is Steven. Thanks for tuning in. Now, this is a different video. I'm not doing an I Ching reading in this video, but I wanted to share some timeless messages that I think will be helpful. This is particularly aimed at men, but it could be for women too. It could be any gender. And it's also men relating to women, but if you're in a relationship with a man, just change the pronoun. So, but for me, just to do the video, I'm going to say, as a guy who's interested in women, then it's going to be guys and women. So, last night, I watched a very good video on YouTube by a man who was essentially sharing different ideas of how men generally make mistakes in their interactions with others, particularly women. Excuse me. When they want to approach a woman or they want to begin a relationship, sometimes they do things that make the woman think, oh, well, is this guy interested in me or are we just friends? So they sometimes put themselves in a friend zone, or women will make tests that guys need to pass to see, well, what this guy is all about. The woman's asking herself, and so she creates these little tests for men to go through, and hopefully the guy can pass these tests and so forth and so on. Some guys, they spend too much money, too many gifts on women, thinking they can buy their affection. And that's a pitfall as well. And all these ideas are very relevant. But as I listened, I realized that the main message was, you're not good enough the way you are, guys. You've got to become this person, this version of yourself, this new version I'm presenting is what you have to become. And as I began to think about that, it created a lot of resistance in me because it just feels like a straitjacket. I've got to become, tough guy, right? Can't show weakness, can't show fear, can't show sadness, depression, gloom, morose. I can show anger. That's acceptable, right? That's an acceptable emotion for men to share or express. But, excuse me, excusez-moi. So many of us men live under this very narrow avenue of emotional expression. And it's very, very tragic, very sad. So as I listened to this gentleman develop his message, I began to realize that this is not the way to live. Essentially, for me at least, and maybe for you too, to ask ourselves, how do I need to be so I can attract a woman's interest? Or how do I need to be so I can maintain a woman's interest? How do I need to speak? How do I need to behave? And so forth and so on. That's exhausting. Just thinking about it is exhausting. And it's completely confining, completely enslaving oneself. There's no liberation there. You're not really free because you're putting on an act. You're thinking, okay, I've got to get this strong, tough kind of persona really established, or whatever the concept is that is the ideal that you think is going to draw that woman in and keep her. But unfortunately, it's an act. And with all acting, the play eventually ends. And so a much better way to go through life is to come to a place of self-acceptance, at least in my estimation. And this is something that I work on. By no means have I mastered these ideas. So please don't think that I have, because I haven't. I'm working on them myself as well. So coming to a place of self-acceptance and self-love, and essentially saying and knowing and believing I'm enough and I'm good enough. And if we can get to that place that says, hey, I am enough, I'm good enough, I like myself, I accept myself, I love myself, and I'm just going to be myself. I'm not going to become a different person to win a woman's affection or attention or acceptance. And I'm not going to become another person to win a business contract or make a bunch of money or whatever the goal is. I'm just going to be myself, my real, authentic self. And there's a lot of advantages to this way of being. Some years ago, I'd read in a Buddhist text different, very interesting stories about how people would move toward enlightenment. Excuse me, I just had some yogurt. Very tasty, but it kind of sticks in my throat. So, there was one story in which I think it was a female monk was on the path to enlightenment. And essentially, her path was this. Wherever she was, with whomever she was, in whatever circumstance she found herself, she strived to always be the same self. To not put on an act, to not be different with other people or in different situations or circumstances, but to always be her same self. And I thought that was interesting because the text was saying that as this monk was doing this, that she, there's my little cat, she was able to move closer and closer to enlightenment. So enlightenment can be attained, or you can move closer to enlightenment by simply being yourself as much as possible and not modulating and modifying and cutting off different parts of yourself and trying to manipulate and contort yourself based on being around certain people or situations. You just are the same self all the time. So that's a refreshing idea, and that ties into the idea of self-acceptance, of being or feeling and believing that you're good enough and that you are enough, and accepting yourself. All these things work together. And if being yourself in all circumstances, whatever that self is, however that self is, helps to lead you to a more enlightened and peaceful and wiser, more radiant state of being, then all the better. So the one thing that I notice being a man is that in my own life experience, there have been numerous moments where I've felt I've got to be tough. I can't be weak. I got to be strong. I can't be sad. I've got to be stoic. I can't be fearful, worried. Jealousy is not cool. Insecurity is not cool. Can't be those ways. So there's all these prohibitions. Can't be fearful. So forth and so on. I may be repeating some of these, but anyway. So the idea is that in order to get to this place where we are enough and we're good enough, what we do is we just let ourselves experience whatever it is we're thinking or feeling in every moment, whether that's joy and peace and happiness and happy experience kind of energy, or maybe we're not in that place. Maybe we're in a place of worry. Maybe we're in a deep place of worry and fear. Circumstances in our life sometimes move in that direction. And so, or maybe we're in a place of jealousy or insecurity or anger. Whatever the particular emotion or thought is, we simply allow ourselves to think and feel it. And as we do so, that experience is completely, we feel that experience completely. We're not pushing it away. We're not trying to get rid of it, throw it away, blow it up or anything. We're just allowing ourselves to feel that. And when we do that, a sort of magic occurs. The thing that we probably don't want to stay in, that jealousy, that fear, that anger, that whatever, that weakness, sadness, even though we might not want to be there, as long as we can allow ourselves to think and feel whatever it is that's coming up, then as long as we can do that, then that emotion and that experience will pass through our lives more easily. And then we can move on to the next moment that may be different than the fear or the sadness or the anxiety, whatever that is. It might be a better moment just on the horizon. But if we have a tennis match, an adversarial relationship, if I'm on one side of the court and this negative emotion is on the other, and we're playing tennis and I'm trying to beat that emotion essentially in a game, I'm trying to win, combat it, have power over it, throw it away. I've got a connection, an energy connection to that particular emotion. And in the Hawaiian kahuna tradition, they call these aka chords, or energy chords, that we make to situations, whether past, present, or future. We make these connections, or to people, or to particular emotions and thoughts. Oftentimes we make these energy chords to things that we're afraid of or we don't like. We also make energy chords to things that we really like and to people we really like. But as we make these energy chords, these aka, aka aka chords, we become bound to these particular situations or emotions or people. And that's not a liberating experience to feel bound to something, because then it's like you're carrying that around with you and you're not really free anymore. And the next moment can't really come in because you're holding on to this negative emotion. You're not just letting yourself feel it. Okay, I can feel this. That's where we need to be, is letting ourselves feel stuff, knowing it's not going to last forever. Okay, there it is. I can feel that. That's all right. That fear, that insecurity, that worry, that anger, whatever it is, we can let ourselves feel it. And as we do so, things change. The magic occurs. And then we move into a new moment. And that other thing that we didn't like, that we allowed ourselves to feel and go through, kind of begins to move out of the picture, out of the view. So that's another technique that can be very helpful. And honestly, that's something that people who meditate use throughout the day. They just let themselves feel whatever's coming up. And they don't try to push it away or blow it up or explode it or run away from it. They just, okay, there it is. I'll feel that fear again. Okay, I can go through that. And there's a power from doing that. And as we move into this, our lives will begin to improve from allowing ourselves to feel these things, whether positive or negative. We just let ourselves feel them. The other idea I wanted to share in this particular video is this, that our home star, let's say our home star that we spend most of our time on, really needs to be this place of self-acceptance and self-love, and I am enough, and I'm good enough. That's our home star. That's where we stay most of the time. And then occasionally, we'll make excursions to the star of improvement. And like the name suggests, the star of improvement is where we recognize there's certain areas within ourselves, within our behavior or our way of speaking or thinking or doing, that we recognize we can make improvements on. Fair enough. And we integrate that information. We get some insights from others, or we get some insights from our deep unconscious selves, our wise selves connected to the divine creator. And we bring that into our conscious awareness, and we say, you know what, I can make some changes in this area. And we begin to do that in the present moment. So, and so the idea is this: we're good enough and we are enough in the present moment, which doesn't mean we can't have improvement. There's always room for improvement. But improvement is not the star that we should be living on most of the time. We go there occasionally, we visit that star, we check it out, hang out for brief periods of time, get the information we need, begin the process we need to undertake, and we come back to the other star of I'm good enough, and I am enough. Self-acceptance and self-love. And that's the way we maintain our sanity and our strength. Okay? Absolutely. There are things in me, and I'm sure things in you as well, that you'd like to change. But if your mind is always about what you need to change, how you need to improve, how you need to grow, that's a very difficult place to be. Because if it's always about something that's going to happen in the future, some new growth that you're going to have to go through or want to go through or need to go through, you're never going to arrive. You're never going to get to that place of self-acceptance and self-love and feeling that you're enough and that you're good enough, because you're always going to be thinking, I'm not enough because look, I got to grow here, I got to grow here, I got to grow here. It's going to drive you crazy. So just to reiterate, our home star is the self-acceptance, self-love, I'm good enough, and I'm enough. And the star of improvement is the star that we occasionally visit to get information, to make some improvements, to bring that into our conscious awareness, and to become even more good enough. Our good enoughness improves. Our enoughness and our good enoughness then improves. And we reach a new level of good enoughness and enoughness, self-acceptance and self-love. So incorporating that with the idea that everyone goes through changes, and paying attention to whatever it is we're feeling is a wonderful, and letting ourselves feel that and go through it is a wonderful way to live. The other idea is that when people, let's say when people cross our paths and we're really interested in them. So you go into the grocery store and you see this woman. She's like really beautiful and you're interested. Don't change yourself. Don't become some version of yourself that you think is going to win her interest or her attention, because you're not going to sustain that act. And like I said before, the play is going to eventually end. And when that play ends, you want her to like you for you, not for the act that you put on. And the reverse is true as well. You want to like her for who she is, and not for some sort of act that she puts on to win your interest. So, now how do I wrap this up? Well, I think the way to wrap this up is this. If we truly are made in the image of our divine creator, which I believe that's true, and we give credence to letting ourselves be ourselves without putting on any airs or any false pretenses, which is, we are who we are, knowing that we have room for improvement, of course, but we're letting ourselves be ourselves in the moment, and knowing, believing, and experiencing that we are enough and we're good enough. By doing this, we're honoring the divine within us, the divine who created us, the divine who we are connected to. And by honoring this divine energy, I think we become the most full expression of ourselves that is possible. By honoring the way we are, rather than being critical of ourselves and thinking, oh, I've got to become this other person so that people will like me, will accept me, so that women will be interested in me, or whatever it is, whomever you're interacting with, really. And so by allowing yourself the grace to not have to go through this difficult and arduous process of constantly manipulating and molding and modifying yourself, let yourself just be who you are in every moment. This will carry you closer to enlightenment. You'll have more power, not power over others. You'll just have more power in terms of your energy won't be wasted doing this game, this acting game of thinking, okay, if I'm like this, then they'll be like that. You don't have to be involved in some sort of business thought process of, if I'm a certain way, they'll be a certain way. It's just exhausting. And because you're not putting on an act, your energy will be much truer to who you truly are. So, that is the message that I have for you today. I hope it's helpful. And thanks for tuning in. And take care.